Alright, so my name is Najee. I'm originally was born out here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was raised in New York. New York is where I met Gene. And basically our story begins July 17, 2018. That's the day I got engaged to Gene. From that day forward, I knew I was going to protect her with my life. My job was to be her man, and her protection was my everything. So we came up with the choice. Since we're going to make adult choices, we're going to have to live like adults. So we made the choice to move to Georgia to jumpstart our careers. So we moved out to Georgia, got our very first apartment. And you know, we was young, naive, though we knew everything. So we moved into the apartment, and we was like $13.75, that ain't nothing. I said we could take that with no problem. And boy, he was in over our heads. So we got up in there, and I think we stood in there for about 3 months before we finally got evicted out. It was good in the beginning. It was like a fairy tale. We had a dog, we was engaged, we was watching TVs, we could stay up late, do whatever we want. But then eventually reality kicked in through the door and taught us, well, you're gonna live like adults, you're gonna have to be one. So eventually when we got kicked out, it was first time my back was against the wall where I felt like her protection was being lifted from her. And as a man, it affected me a lot emotionally. A lot, actually. So I had to come up with a plan. I said either we go back to New York, start all over, or we're going to stay out here in Georgia and we're going to stick through this. So I came up with the plan, let's go into a shelter. So we got into a shelter and everything, which it took a lot of pride for me to do it. Shelter culture is very different compared to the free world. Shelter culture do a lot of messed up things to you. Sometimes they feel like they don't treat you like a human like you would want to. Like for instance, they did little things like me and her, we work a lot. So we always stay busy. We ain't no lazy people. So we would come in on the day off, we tired. So they ain't got nothing going on, but since the staff don't want to deal with you or they're not getting paid enough, they go ahead and say, oh, let's drop you off at Georgia State train station. And you walk around till 5 o'clock at night. And you find your way back to the shelter at night. And if you're not there by 6:30, don't come back. We're going to kick you back out into the streets. So that was the reality of shelter culture. With that being said, it taught me a lot, and it made me stronger. So I knew I had to come up with a plan. And like I said before we moved out here to Atlanta, Georgia, we had to jumpstart our careers. My career goal before I moved out here since I was a little kid was always be a police officer. I chose out here in Atlanta because out here you don't need a college degree in order to be a police officer. You need your high school diploma, which I had. So that's why I came out here and we did what we had to do. And she'll tell you what she wanted to do. I ain't gonna tell her story. But so I was focusing on my goal of becoming a police officer, and I also was focusing on my goal of getting her back into safety, and I was out of the shelter. We was not only were we separated for the first time, she was sleeping on the other side of the hall, and I was sleeping on the other side of the hall with the guys. For me, it didn't bother me. I'm from the projects in New York, so being in that type of environment, it was like second nature to me. It scared me for her because she lived in a family where she was privileged. She didn't have to deal with none of that, and it hurt me because I felt like I put her in danger and I failed. So it took a lot of emotional, I was going through a lot emotionally during that time, but I had to be strong for her. I said, I'm my fiance, I gotta do what I gotta do as a man. So I was working nonstop, working overnight, doing what I had to do, and it was one Pacific night that actually stood out to me. One night I was ready to give up, and I told Gene, well, you know, I don't want you going through this with me no more. I want you to go to New York, stay with your mother. I'm gonna live with my cousins. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna stay in the shelter. Then I'm gonna go to my cousins when I get enough money, pay rent with her, and I'm gonna do what we have to do. She stopped me. She said, She said, well, you're gonna be in the shelter. We're gonna be in it together. She said, because we came here together. We're gonna go through this together. And that right there gave me the biggest motivation I needed. So I literally did what we had to do. So eventually, I met ACSS. I met an associate. I ain't gonna say her name, but she knows who she is. But I met her at, ACSS changed a lot. They found so many resources for us. They act like they actually cared about me. They actually act like they actually saw my future and actually was motivated to help me. This specific individual, 'cause that's the only person I dealt with from there. But one thing I could say, this individual get the job done. So I was very happy. So with that being said, I was able to move forward. So eventually I met another program where I was sleeping at during the daytime, because eventually the shelter that we originally was in, we got into a couple shelter. So the scenario with them was, I worked from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. Unfortunately, the couple shelter we was in, 7 in the morning, everybody's kicked out and they can't come back to 6 o'clock at night. So I had to go to this exact shelter, and it was like a day program. And I would go there and I would sleep throughout the daytime, even though the kids was loud, ghetto and all that, and I wasn't really feeling it. But you know, I had to do what I had to do. Like I said, her protection was everything. Whatever I had to do, I'll do it. So one day, director came up. I didn't even know she was a director. She just came up to me. She said, "Well, what are you doing here? Why are you here every day?" I said, "Well, you know, I'm just getting some sleep because, you know, I sleep here until I go to the shelter before I go to work." And she was like, "Well, you know what? I probably can help you guys out." So eventually we went through a process and everything. And then, you know, whether you know it or not, we got an apartment. So when we finally got the apartment, and everything, and now we on the next level now. Now I'm working to get my driver's license now, and one thing I'm gonna tell you all, I'm even on the keto right now, trying to drop all this weight off. So by the end of this year, y'all better watch out and be in the police academy. I'm gonna be a police officer.
When me and Najee met, I was very naive and very dependent on others. So when me and Najee got together, sorry, I'm a little nervous, but when me and Najee got together, I felt motivated that I wanted to do something. So I went and I got my phlebotomy certification, and then eventually down the line we got engaged, and I wanted to move to Georgia, and excuse me, we came up with a plan to move to Georgia, and so we got into our apartment. It was beautiful. We got our dog Max. He was a lab, and then he was a lab, and then. And then when we got our eviction notice, we had to bring the dog to the shelter, but the shelter wouldn't accept him because they were already full, and we had to we called the animal control, and they said that they couldn't do anything, so we had to leave him in the apartment. But we called the landlord and told them that, you know, about the dog situation. We left him with a whole bunch of food and stuff like that, and we became homeless. And he told you the story about us being homeless. And my overall goal is to be a nurse. I got my CNA certification, and